Exposed. How my son-in-law's shocking move after our daughter's wedding transformed everything. Jane stood in the bakery, the comforting scent of cinnamon and vanilla enveloping her like a warm embrace. But today, everything felt different. As her daughter Emily danced joyfully in her wedding gown, laughter echoed in the air, yet Jane's mind raced, gripped by an unsettling fear. Just hours before, Ben, her new son-in-law, made a sudden announcement that sent shockwaves through her heart, a commitment to leave his high-flying tech career to help her run the bakery. Could a man who had never kneaded dough truly understand the soul of their family legacy? Her father's voice whispered in her mind, recounting the endless hours spent together baking, sharing stories, and passing down traditions nestled in each scrumptious pastry. Suddenly, the weight of both pride and doubt pressed heavily on her shoulders. Even as she tried to smile through her anxiety, a nagging feeling sat in the pit of her stomach, a sense that Emily's wedding had marked the end of something irreplaceable. Weeks passed after the wedding, and Jane felt both exhilarated and unnerved as Ben dove into the mechanics of the bakery. Marketing strategies buzzed around social media, and the quaint atmosphere suffered a drastic makeover. Her grandmother's handwritten recipes were displayed in sleek digital format, and customers no longer exchanged warm stories with her at the counter. Instead, they scrolled through online posts that felt sterile and detached. The once familiar faces now wore expressions of confusion, leaving Jane to question if they still felt at home in her bakery. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each day brought mounting tension. Jane confronted her fears of insecurity, watching Ben's effortless transitions swell with success while her heart twisted with a blend of jealousy and frustration. How could he so easily reshape what she had fought so hard to cultivate? The flour that once filled her fingers felt like sand slipping away, as the bakery transforming in front of her held no warmth of the past, only sterile promises of efficiency. One restless night, surrounded by dim light, Jane rummaged through old family documents, searching for solace. Instead, she unearthed a trove of letters revealing her father's aspirations. He had sought tech grants decades ago to innovate their beloved bakery, but had shelved those dreams for the family recipe book. The revelation felt like a punch to her gut, churning her gut with conflicting emotions. With fear gripping her heart, Jane faced Ben in their kitchen, a battleground of flour and resentment. Will they only continue clashing? Each clung stubbornly to their ideas of what the bakery should be, caught at a crossroads where innovation and tradition collided. The air thickened, heavy with unsaid words, and Jane's heart raced as she fought against the inevitable shift. Could they build a future that didn't betray her father's legacy, while embracing an unpredictable new vision? The question swirled around her like an impending storm, unresolved, hanging like a batter rising against unknown changes. Jane stared at the flour dust swirling in the fatigue-lit kitchen, holding tightly to her rolling pin as if it were the last remnant of her world. The tension crackled in the air, thick enough to cut through the weight of unspoken words. Ben was in the other room, engrossed in a presentation for a new online campaign he wanted to push. Her emotions churned, pride in his ambition clashing with the dread that his vision might drown hers. As she rolled out the dough, memories rushed back. She could almost hear her father's laughter echoing against the walls, the rhythm of flour sifting through their fingers during those late-night baking sessions. She remembered the way they used to perfect each recipe through trials and errors, paving their way through failures, learning with each batch, all grounded in love and laughter. That same love now felt threatened by Ben's cold efficiency. He brought a world of analytics and market trends, but Jane longed for the warmth of human connection, a need for story over stats. She could feel her identity fraying. The bakery was not just a business to her, but a woven tapestry of family history and soul. The next day, she decided to confront Ben. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, yet it resonated with a multitude of emotions. His back was turned to her, focused on the screen. There was a flick of irritation in his shoulders as he paused before turning around. "Sure, but I have a ton to finish. Can we make it quick?" he replied, his tone clipped. Jane took a breath, steadying herself. I feel like we need to recalibrate. The bakery. It's changing and not in the way I hoped. Ben frowned, crossing his arms. I thought you liked the changes. More customers are coming in. We're reaching a broader audience. True, but are they becoming regulars? Do they even know our story? Our values? It's not just about driving sales. It's south about what this place means, she shot back, feeling a surge of frustration. So what, you want to close the doors to innovation? To progress? His voice raised slightly, revealing an underlying fatigue. No, I don't want that. But there needs to be a balance. We have to be careful not to lose the heart that makes the bakery special. Did she sound desperate? It felt like she was defending not just the bakery but herself. Ben softened slightly, allowing a sliver of understanding to peek through. What do you suggest then? Should we scrap everything I've done? Jane inhaled deeply, needing clarity. Let us incorporate the changes, but in ways that reflect our legacy. Can we do both? Bring in new tech, but also find ways to share our story? Engage with our customers? He paused for a moment, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. So you're saying we need a marketing strategy that tells your story alongside the business one? Yes. The fire ignited within her as hope flickered back to life. We could showcase your expertise while weaving in our family's history. Let us involve our community more, baking workshops, storytelling sessions. Give people a reason to connect. What if it fails? Ben countered, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Then we adapt again. But if we stand still out of fear, we lose everything that made us who we are. His silence weighed heavy as he contemplated her words, a testament to the uncharted territory before them. They were not just navigating a business shift but a personal one. Jane felt like they were on the precipice of revelation, teetering between the known and the unknown. Will Ben embrace this collaborative vision, or will his certainty and efficiency push her further from their shared path? In the pulsating silence of the kitchen, a new resolve stitched itself within her, a determination to both protect the legacy and embrace innovation. As Jane waited for Ben's answer, she realized that this moment was more than just a conversation about the bakery. It was about her evolution as both a mother and a businesswoman. The next step loomed before her, a challenge that required bridging old traditions with new insights. What they would decide next could reshape everything, but would it unite them or bring them to the edge again? The true test of their partnership was about to unfold. The silence hung between them, clinging to the air with thickening tension. Ben finally shifted his weight, a hint of deliberation etched on his features. I guess we can try it your way. He returned to his laptop, an uneasy acceptance settling over him like a fine dusting of flour. Jane felt a rush of relief but quickly tempered it with caution. This wasn't just a small concession. It was a potential pivot in their lives and business. She resolved to make the most of it, aware that change would demand her full investment emotionally and creatively. The next morning, the kitchen sparkled under the morning light, and the familiar warmth of freshly baked bread filled her senses. Yet, as Jane moved through the motions, her mind buzzed with an electric anticipation, a mix of excitement and apprehension. Before her lay the challenge of intertwining their narratives, her family's legacy and Ben's modern approach. She crafted a rough outline for the first workshop, Tales and Treats. It felt like a whimsical invitation into a world she'd long cherished, where every ingredient carried a story. She decided to share her father's favorite recipes, hoping to inspire people with joy and nostalgia. With a cup of steaming coffee in hand, Jane set herself at the kitchen table, reviewing her notes. Each detail reverberated back to her childhood. The smell of vanilla wafting through the open windows, the laughter echoing off the walls. This was her era to create a rich narrative, layering their modern business model with her emotional heritage. But before she could get too far, the weight of Ben's doubt crept back in. His voice replayed in her mind. What if it fails? She gripped her pen, feeling a rising tide of uncertainty mingling with determination. A plan started to form, something unconventional that could turn their bakery into a hub of warmth and connection. What if they not only told their story but invited their customers into it? Jane envisioned a series of community events where baking wasn't just a transaction but an experience. Moments spent kneading dough would unfold into shared stories, laughter, and connection. But a daunting truth surfaced. She would have to confront Ben again. Presenting this ambitious vision required her to gently navigate his skepticism. Would he see the deeper purpose or stand firm in his data-driven approach? After days of crafting finer details, she summoned her courage and approached him during a quiet moment in the kitchen. "Ben, I have a plan," she began, glancing at the flickering candle resting on the counter. Illuminating both their faces, he leaned back, a cautious interest sparking in his eyes. "Okay, what are you thinking? What if we host tales and treats? We share recipes from my family, open our kitchen to others for workshops, and foster community memories through baking," she said, speaking in a measured tone. "It's about giving customers a reason to come back beyond just good pastries." His brows knitted together, and Jane could see the wheels turning in his mind. "That sounds personal," he remarked, his usual analytical tone replaced with curiosity. "It is personal, but it's also strategic. Crafting a connection like this not only drives sales but builds loyalty. It's our story wrapped in layers of dough," she explained, searching his face for signs of understanding. He nodded slightly, assessing her words. "But how do we quantify that? It's hard to measure a feeling." Jane's heart raced. "Isn't that the point? To create something beyond numbers? This is about legacy and family. It's not just an addition to the business. It's about our journey together in this." A spark of urgency filled her voice, compelling her to lay bare her ambitions. Ben fell silent, his expression inscrutable. She felt exposed, waiting for him to respond as a multitude of emotions cascaded through her. Suddenly, the enormity of their decisions loomed over her. Were they ready to blaze this trail together? Or would Ben retreat into the safety of data and projections? Jane sensed a pivotal moment crystallizing in front of them. She took a breath, hoping he would see the vision and take the leap with her. "What do you think?" It was a step into the unknown. Would their partnership weather this storm into fresh territory? Or would it fracture under the weight of competing visions? The answer felt as fragile as the delicate pastry rolling out before her. Each step forward a test of faith, not just in their business but in each other. The sun spilled through the kitchen window, illuminating the flour-dusted surface where Jane had laid out her notes and ingredients. As she prepared for a busy day of baking, her heart raced at the prospect of their first workshop. Ben's reaction still echoed in her mind, a blend of hesitation and intrigue. She needed to capitalize on that spark of interest. To solidify their vision, she found herself glancing nervously at the clock. Ben had promised to meet her before opening for some final planning, yet he was invariably punctual when it came to work. Today the minutes dragged on, amplifying her anxiety. She had woven a tapestry of ideas, but was he truly ready to embrace her perspective? As if summoned by her thoughts, Ben stepped through the door, a stack of papers clutched in his hand. His brows furrowed, as though grappling with competing priorities. The sight of him sent a jolt through her. There was an urgency in the way they needed to communicate. "Jane," he started, slipping into professional mode, "I've analyzed some data on last month's sales, and we need to consider the numbers first if we want to expand this idea." The shift in energy was palpable, like an unexpected cold front. Her plans fluttered in the wind of his analytical scrutiny. "Ben, I understand, but this is about more than just numbers. It's an opportunity to build something meaningful." He looked at her with a mix of concern and curiosity. "I get that, but if we're going to take this leap, it needs a solid foundation. What if it doesn't resonate with our customer base? Maybe those questions are meant to be answered through doing, not analyzing," she countered, her voice steady despite her nerves. "This could define our bakery's identity, but we have to be brave enough to explore." Silence stretched between them, a hesitant truce forming as they weighed the value of creativity against pragmatic reasoning. Each second felt weighted with deliberation. "Let us take a step back," Ben suggested, running a hand through his hair. "What could we do to blend these ideas? Create an impactful workshop but also prioritize sales?" A flicker of hope ignited in her. Collaborating meant a bridge, not a chasm. "What if we used the first workshop as a small-scale experiment? We could promote it heavily, collect customer feedback, and fine-tune the following ones based on that. It could also serve as a marketing tool." He contemplated her suggestion, lips pursing as he calculated the implications. "You mean to incorporate initial measurements of customer interest from the turnout? If we can demonstrate engagement, it could validate the emotional investment." "Yes," she exclaimed, unable to suppress her enthusiasm. And we could create a social media campaign around their tales, fostering a connection even before they step foot in the shop. His eyes softened for a moment, the warmth of collaboration glimmering through. You genuinely believe we can merge these perspectives? It's unorthodox. Exactly, she replied. But perhaps that's the point. Blending tradition and modernity can open the door to something unexpected and fruitful. Trust this process. He took a breath, a moment of contemplation swirling in his features. All right, let us make a plan together. If this can bring success and emotional depth, I'm on board. The shift in his tone invoked relief and excitement as they started drafting the framework for their workshop. Jane felt a surge of growth within herself. This wasn't merely about proposing ideas. It was about asserting her vision while being receptive to his skepticism. They began to find common ground, forging a partnership that began to dance between logic and passion. But lurking beneath the resolve was a nagging worry: could they truly reconcile their distinct approaches? Would Ben remain on board when the initial excitement faded, returning to the familiar safety of numbers and projections? With a sense of urgency threading through her, Jane pushed the thought aside. This moment mattered too much. They were on the cusp of a profound transformation in their business and personal partnership. The enormity of the leap before them intertwined ambition with uncertainty. Let us pull this off, Jane said, determination bubbling within her. No matter what happens, it's our story that matters most. As they hung suspended between optimism and fear, she knew the next chapter in their journey had only just begun. What would emerge from the first Tales and Treats workshop would test their partnership further. And Jane felt an undercurrent of tension building, a shadow of the challenges that lay ahead. How long could they maintain this delicate balance? The fluorescent lights buzzed softly above as Jane meticulously organized her ingredients that glistened in their canisters, a reflection of her desire to maintain order amidst the uncertainty of the day. Her hands moved with practiced dexterity, but her mind was distracted. Was she truly ready for this workshop? Ben's agreement to collaborate felt more like a fragile truce than a solid partnership. Yet, that flicker of possibility melding their ideas into something impactful kept her grounded. She examined the array of colorful sprinkles in front of her, allowing the thought to linger. Every sprinkle had its own flavor, but only together could they create something delightful. Okay, Jane, she whispered to herself, focus. The clock reminded her that time was slipping away. The workshop would begin shortly, and she had yet to finalize the presentation. Incorporating customer stories could work, she murmured, recalling Ben's hesitance when it came to free-spirited creativity. While she appreciated his analytical nature, the juxtaposition planted seeds of doubt in her mind. Would her risk-taking approach falter under the weight of practicality? Maybe I should simplify. The idea squirmed in her thoughts, nagging at her. She envisioned walking into the workshop, armed with a captivating plan. Yet what if it fell flat? The weight of those initial moments blanketed her excitement. She went over her notes, skimming for reassurance. Her fingers grazed over the words she had meticulously penned. Community, creativity, connection. Each term swam in her consciousness, begging to be realized, but the inner critic fired doubt. What if attendees found her ideas lacking? What if their stories didn't resonate? While she wrestled with her anxieties, the sound of the front door opening jolted her back to the present. Ben's voice filtered through the kitchen, a blend of urgency and focus. Jane, I think we need to run through this one more time. His eyes darted over the setup, alerting her to the minutiae she had overlooked in her reverie. Right. Let us take it step by step, she said, albeit with a slight tremor in her voice. Handing him a clipboard with their workshop plan, she watched him scan the details, ready to critique. We need to ensure we cover baking techniques sufficiently. But the personal storytelling? I'm not so sure. Are they ready for that? Her heart pounded against her rib cage. What if this is the very reason they come, because we offer more than just baking? The emotional investment will create a community, one that people want to be part of. Ben furrowed his brow, uncertainty etching deeper lines on his forehead. He opened his mouth, perhaps to argue or redirect, but then paused. You believe it's essential for engagement? Yes, she asserted, emboldened by her conviction. We can't just share recipes, we need to connect with them. It's about understanding what baking represents, a blend of tradition and personal stories. The air thickened with contemplative silence as they faced one another. At that moment, Jane understood that getting through to him required more than just words. It needed vulnerability as well. Ben, she continued, feeling the truth rise within her. I want us to inspire, to move people. But I need you to trust this vision. His response was delayed. The weight of the world's expectations wrapped tightly around his shoulders. It's a gamble, he finally said. What if this leads us down a path we can't redirect? Yes, she replied, her voice steadied. But what if it leads us somewhere beautiful? We can always adjust based on feedback, but this could unlock something extraordinary. We have to take that leap together. The tension that had been building turned electric, sparking between them. Ben shifted, a visible battlefield of thoughts swirling in his gaze. He wasn't one to be swayed easily, but something about her unwavering courage stirred something deeper in him. Okay. The word slipped from his lips, almost inaudibly. Let us do it. Together. But be prepared for criticism. You know there will be skeptics. Jane's heart swelled, racing now toward possibilities once shrouded in doubt. I'm ready. We're ready. Let us show everyone what we can create. As they set the final details in motion, Jane felt a variant of hope interlaced with anxiety. Would this workshop flourish as she envisioned? Or would it expose cracks in their partnership? Amidst this whirlpool of emotions lay a question begging for clarity. Would their first venture together reveal profound insights into their dynamic? Or would it highlight the irreconcilable differences woven through their professional personalities? The dichotomy of anticipation and fear lingered, leaving Jane only further compelled to face the unknown. How would they navigate the churning waters ahead? The workshop room buzzed with a mix of anticipation and trepidation, the scattered chairs bearing witness to the multitude of stories ready to spill forth. As attendees filtered in, Jane felt adrenaline pumping through her veins, an exhilarating cocktail of excitement and fear. It was now or never. Start strong, she thought, aware that first impressions often set the tone. She caught sight of Ben, who appeared to be grappling with his own internal war. His face was a mask of concentration, every line etched deeply as he meticulously prepared the station for their demonstration. For a moment, the energy in the room felt heavy, like an impending storm, the quiet before the flood of engagement they desired. Are you ready? She asked, attempting to quell the rising tide of her nerves. He nodded, but the flicker of doubt in his eyes told her otherwise. They exchanged a glance, a silent agreement of solidarity grappling with the tension of their differing approaches. She leaned in closer, willing herself to establish a connecting thread. Let us not just teach them today. Let us challenge them to share, to feel. He sighed heavily, as if the weight of her words settled squarely on his shoulders. Right. But remember, we have to stick to the outline. Let the outline breathe, she urged quietly. Think of it like dough. Let us knead it a little before shaping it. It's all part of the process. He finally cracked a smile, a fleeting moment of camaraderie. It emboldened her. But then the room began to fill, and her focus shifted back to the crowd. She smoothed her apron, aware of the need to anchor herself in this moment. As they kicked off the workshop, Jane took the lead, diving headfirst into the introduction. Welcome everyone. Today isn't just about perfecting recipes. It's about sharing experiences, she proclaimed, her voice resonating with passion. Heads began to nod, and she saw eyes light up in recognition. The first demonstration of baking techniques flowed naturally, their practice choreography creating a dynamic rhythm. Then came the pivotal moment, inviting attendees to share their own stories and memories associated with baking. Jane glanced at Ben, his expression uncertain yet intrigued. Let us make it a conversation, she prompted, inviting the audience to engage. Who would like to share a personal baking experience? What emotions do these recipes evoke? Hands shot up. A young woman spoke of her grandmother's cookies, and Jane felt a twinge of envy for the authenticity she embodied. Behind her composure, Jane felt herself come alive, driven by a yearning to forge genuine connections. But as the stories flowed, she noticed Ben retreating into silence. His analytical nature kicked in, and it was as if he saw every moment of vulnerability as a potential risk rather than an opportunity. The contrast in their approaches became a stark reality. Disturbing uncertainty clawed at her. Was this risk worth the vision they had forged? Midway through, Ben surprised her by stepping in, adding context to the emotional anecdotes with facts about baking traditions. Although his intent was to ground the session, it riffed jarring notes against Jane's intuitive connection. "Let us keep the heart of it alive, Ben," she interjected softly, but with firmness, recalling how they had agreed to embrace creative risks. "All I'm saying is we need to stay on track," he replied, his voice steady yet impassioned, though a flicker of anxiety ran through his posture as the workshop unfolded. The tension wove its way through the dialogue, reflecting their internal divides. Feelings of dread began to rise, and Jane felt the fragility of their collaboration slipping alarmingly close to the brink. She questioned her approach. Had she undermined his analytical strengths by prioritizing emotional storytelling? Together they had promised. But with every passing story, it felt like they were slowly drifting apart, each narrative revealing deeper fissures in their professional partnership. As closing remarks enveloped the session, Jane's heartbeat raced with urgency. Were they truly on the same page? Was this revelation the prelude to something transformative? Or would it fracture their volatile union? She sensed that her greatest challenge lay not in captivating the audience but in reconciling the differences that had emerged between them. The room slowly emptied, leaving behind echoes of emotions, yet the two of them stood in the debris of their collaboration, teetering between revelation and confrontation. Could they emerge from this experience stronger? Or was this the beginning of an unraveling? The nagging question lingered: how would they confront the fissures of their partnership and navigate the complexities of collaboration as they prepared for their next venture? As the last of the attendees trickled out, Jane turned to face Ben, who was meticulously stacking the chairs. Their shared silence was heavy, laden with unspoken thoughts. She sensed their partnership hanging on a precipice, and a wave of concern washed over her. Was the emotional component she had championed worth the potential fracture? "Ben, can we talk about what just happened?" she ventured cautiously, her voice barely rising above the fading echoes in the room. He paused, looking at her with a mixture of uncertainty and resignation. "Sure. Just give me a moment to collect my thoughts," he replied, his tone affable yet firm, as if signaling a retreat into his shell. Jane watched him for a moment, frustrated but understanding. She had been pushing for more openness and connection, while he preferred structure and facts, a dichotomy that, on the surface, seemed essential. But as she studied him, she realized it was more than just perspectives. It was a manifestation of who they were becoming, or in this case, who they were risking becoming. When he finally turned back to her, she gestured to the scattered flower and undone notes that littered their workspace. "It felt like a dance out there, Ben. I wanted to lead, but I also wanted you to join me in expressing something deeper. I thought that was part of our vision," she admitted, her heart racing as she laid her vulnerabilities bare. Ben ran his hand through his hair, visibly wrestling with her words. "I understand that," he said slowly, "but you know how I am. I thought we had agreed to stick to the framework we planned. I genuinely believe it makes for a stronger outcome. What we had was a moment that spoke to people's hearts, something beyond recipes. I guess I just wanted us to ride the wave instead of being anchored down," she responded, her voice steadier than she felt. Silence enveloped them again, as if the very room was contemplating the tension that had just played out. Jane sensed a new depth of understanding between them, marred only by the lingering doubts. "I'll be honest, Jane," he began, measuring each word. "Every time you pushed for more vulnerability, it scared me. It's like you're pursuing this emotional connection, and I'm struggling to follow." His admission hung between them like a fragile thread. What if we didn't see it as a competition? What if we viewed it as an opportunity for growth for both of us? She challenged softly, trying to break down the walls he had built. His expression shifted, vulnerability replacing the mask of analytical certainty. "You're right. I want to grow, but I also fear that losing the structure negates the hard work I've put in." Something clicked within Jane. It wasn't just about the workshop, it was about personal evolution. They both had to confront their discomforts and insecurities, even if it meant facing the uncomfortable truth of who they were becoming. Perhaps this was their moment to find common ground. "Then let us recalibrate," she proposed, feeling a surge of determination. "How about we take a closer look at our strengths? A new approach could let us blend our styles instead of folding under the tension." Ben's brow furrowed in thought, considering the proposition. "What do you suggest?" "I want us to do an exercise together. something that pulls us out of our routines. What if we cook something completely new without a formal framework? Just the two of us exploring and failing, sharing our thoughts as we go? She offered, her enthusiasm bubbling. He contemplated this new idea, the undertow of uncertainty still swirling in his mind. You really believe that could bring us closer? Jane nodded earnestly. I do. We need to embrace not only what we know, but what we can discover together. It might just bridge that tension. As Ben considered her proposal, a flicker of excitement danced in his eyes, overshadowing his earlier apprehension. This shift marked a significant transformation, a moment where they could weave their personalities into something greater. Okay, let us try it, he said, a tentative smile breaking through. But if we completely mess it up, we're blaming you. Jane laughed, a release of tension that filled the room with warmth. The challenge now lay before them. How could they blend the emotional with the analytical, creating a new fabric woven from their distinct textures? Yet in the fleeting thrill of this new agreement, Jane felt a pinch of anxiety. Had she truly stepped beyond the boundaries of her comfort? With their next venture looming, the question filled her with both eagerness and trepidation. How would this journey of rekindling their partnership change not just them, but the lives of those they sought to connect with in deeper ways? Unbeknownst to them, the greatest tests were yet to come. It was the beginning of a transformative exploration. But would they embrace the shadows that accompanied the light? Jane arrived at the kitchen the next morning with a sense of determination coursing through her. The air was filled with a crisp freshness, an uncharted territory where she and Ben would explore their collaboration not just as colleagues, but as co-creators, each contributing their unique strengths. It was a daunting task, but if she were to grow in her role, she needed to harness her passion while allowing him the space to navigate his ground of analytics. Ben met her at the entrance, bearing 2 grocery bags overflowing with ingredients. He looked tentative but hopeful. All right, lead the way, he said, his smile hinting at a willingness that both encouraged and unnerved her. What do you think we should make first? Jane asked, cracking her knuckles as if she were about to enter a sparring match. Let us do a fusion dish, he suggested as they began pulling out vegetables, spices, and proteins. His hands moved deftly, and she marveled at the confidence he showed while measuring flour with precision. Fusion. I like it, she replied, a thrill sizzling through her, igniting her instincts. How about we mix Italian and Asian? Think spaghetti stir-fry. He raised an eyebrow, intrigued. I had no idea you were this adventurous. But we might need a plan. Plans can be constraining, she countered, cutting tomatoes with liberated strokes. We can allow the ingredients to guide us. Instead of stepping back, let us step into the unknown. As they navigated the culinary chaos, Jane found herself increasingly at ease, spurred on by the thrill of improvisation. The knife slices came more confidently, a reflection of her solidifying belief in the value of spontaneity. She glanced over to Ben, who meticulously diced vegetables in a systematic manner. There was a quiet strength in his discipline, one she had previously undervalued. I see you're still holding on to the framework, she teased lightly, but there was an underlying sincerity beneath her words. This is my element, Jane. Structure keeps chaos at bay, he replied, gesturing at their scattered station. But as he processed the ingredients, she noticed a flicker of acceptance, a brief acknowledgement of the chaotic artistry she sought to cultivate. As the aroma of garlic and ginger filled the room, they began to share ideas, flavors and textures melding in a delightful alchemy. Amidst their kitchen experiments, Jane realized that Ben was slowly adopting a new rhythm, letting some of his rigid structure ebb away. Here's the secret, she said, tossing in a pinch of crushed red pepper. Cooking is like a dance. Steps may vary, but it's about how you move with the music. His brow furrowed as he absorbed her metaphor. You have to embrace the mistakes in that dance, don't you? He said, eyebrows raised, as if that realization had piqued his mechanical workings of mind. Exactly, she affirmed with genuine excitement. Embracing mistakes opens the door to unexpected delights. Remember how we nearly burned those scallops? What we ended up with was much better. His laugh echoed in the room, a shared moment of joy marking a significant shift in their partnership. They finished their dish, plating it with an aesthetic that mirrored both their styles, hers abundant and daring, his sleek and measured. When they tasted their creation, there was a moment of quiet before a rush of flavors exploded. An unexpected harmony defined their efforts. In that instant, Jane tasted the fruits of their collaboration, not merely a dish, but a reflection of their bond. "See," she said, stifling a delighted grin. "That was a victory. We can challenge ourselves creatively, while still harnessing your structured approach." In the afterglow of their accomplishment, however, uncertainty lingered in the back of Jane's mind. Capitalizing on this newfound momentum was crucial, but challenges lay ahead. How could they maintain this balance of emotional and analytical without reverting to their defaults when under pressure? As she cleaned up, Jane's heart raced with anticipation. The thrill of their evolution held promise, but it also carried shadows of doubt. She had stepped out of her comfort zone. Now they needed to stake out a new common ground. It was exhilarating yet terrifying. What was the next challenge that would test their resolve, their willingness to venture further into unknown territory? What tenuous bridge would they need to cross next in order to solidify this transformation? The answers loomed, waiting for tomorrow's dawn. The following day dawned with a tantalizing mix of excitement and trepidation. Jane couldn't shake the feeling that their kitchen partnership was evolving into a prism of opportunity. Yet, an undeniable tension lurked beneath the surface. Fresh off their culinary triumph, she was exhilarated, but also keenly aware that the true test of their collaboration lay ahead. How well would they navigate deeper waters beyond fusion dishes? As she arrived at the kitchen, the sun spilled through the windows, bathing the space in a golden light. She paused, taking in the scene: cooking tools meticulously arranged, remnants of their previous creations scattered across the countertop, a symbol of their journey so far. "Ready for round two?" Ben asked, a buoyant smile stretching across his face. His energy was contagious, and Jane felt a surge of optimism. "I'm thinking we need to challenge ourselves more. Culinary techniques that require finesse but also creativity," she proposed, her mind racing with ideas. "How about we tackle sauces? Mastering a variety can elevate our dishes." Ben's brow furrowed slightly, a reflection of the analytic nature she had grown to admire. "Sauces are the backbone of cooking. They demand precision. We could end up overwhelmed if we aren't careful." "Exactly," she reiterated, excitement shimmering through her voice. "But it's also another opportunity to balance structure and spontaneity. Think of it as our next dance, more intricate steps we can embrace together." His hesitation lingered for just a moment before he nodded, and they set to work. Each move they made in the kitchen was a step towards building not just flavors but trust. Jane focused on the emulsification process for an aioli, while Ben meticulously checked the acidity levels of their base. As they started experimenting, Jane attempted to incorporate spontaneity into their method. She whisked in different herbs and spices as Ben converted measurements into ratios on his notepad. However, every iteration felt charged with tension, their energies colliding and diverging with each new attempt. Frustration began to bubble as another round turned out far too rich, a stark reminder of the thin line they walked between creativity and control. "This isn't working," she admitted, wiping beads of sweat from her brow. "We're not synthesizing like before." Ben frowned, running a hand through his hair. "Maybe we're trying to force it. Perhaps we need to take a step back and allow our instincts to lead us." She blinked, taken aback by his suggestion. It was unusual to hear him embrace such a liberating philosophy. "Are you suggesting we abandon the rules?" He shrugged slightly, a hint of mischief in his eyes. "Just for a moment. What if we let go and see what happens? Channel that initial thrill of yesterday?" Jane felt a hammering in her chest. This was the challenge she had wanted, but it frightened her. Would they really find harmony by risking chaos again, or would it all collapse? "All right," she said, surprised by her own resolve. "Let us try it your way. Let us dance." With newfound vigor they dove into their task. Jane threw in ingredients impulsively while Ben allowed his meticulous nature to yield to moments of intuition. Time slipped away as they moved through the chaos, piecing together an unexpected flavor wheel that sang from a fusion of technique and spontaneity, each tangy note layering into something remarkable. The mental stakes shifted as Jane felt a thrill pulse through her. Yet her internal conflict remained: how could they sustain this unconventional approach when real-life challenges would inevitably pressure them back into rigidity? When they finally tasted their creation, a lemon herb beurre blanc with unexpected accents of chili and cilantro, she felt a wave of relief. The balance they achieved was intoxicating. Eager to maintain that rhythm, She realized they needed to reinforce this unsteady foundation, but doubts slithered anew in her mind. Next, we'll need a solid plan for service. It's time to think big and present on a larger stage, she ventured lightly, but uncertainty lingered in her voice. Ben looked contemplative, his analytical nature now paired with the daring spirit they had cultivated. But what will happen when we present our dishes outside this safe space? How do we confront the reality of scrutiny and expectations? The question hung in the air, a reminder that their journey was far from over. The challenges ahead loomed like an uncharted territory, and for Jane, the stakes had never felt so high. Would their collaboration withstand the scrutiny of a greater audience, or would their fears bind them once more? The clock ticked, each second a reminder that the next step may be their most pivotal yet. After weeks of experimentation, late nights in the kitchen, and the shared joy of discovery, Jane and Ben stood side by side, ready to unveil their joint vision to the world. The anticipation flowed through Jane as she looked at the bakery, now a vibrant tapestry of their lives interwoven with the stories of their customers. She felt the weight of her father's legacy in every corner and every recipe they shared. Today was the day of the first public demonstration, an event Jane had titled Baking Stories, where tradition meets innovation. It was their chance to showcase how they merged her family's heartfelt connection with baking and Ben's analytical prowess as they arranged their workstations. The cheerful chatter of the audience warmed the atmosphere. Jane took a deep breath, reminding herself that this was not just a show. It was a culmination of their journey. Every doubt that had once clouded her mind was replaced by a solid confidence in what they had created together. When the time for their presentation arrived, Jane stepped to the front. The spotlight felt unfamiliar, yet energizing. Welcome, everyone. Today we invite you to join us as we bake, share stories, and explore the richness behind our traditions, she began, her voice resonating with conviction. They began with the first recipe, a classic family favorite, passed down through generations. As they baked, Jane invited attendees to share their memories related to baking, encouraging audience participation. Ben nodded in agreement, using his skills to blend their traditions with the audience's inputs gracefully. To her delight, the audience responded enthusiastically. Laughter and emotions echoed in the bakery. Jane felt a surge of fulfillment. They were not only connecting through recipes but building a community. As they added personal anecdotes to their demonstration, Jane admired Ben's ability to seamlessly integrate data about baking techniques with the emotional narratives shared by attendees. They complemented each other beautifully. Every joyous exchange reinforced the spirit of collaboration they had forged. After wrapping up, the applause was thunderous, a recognition not just of their baking skills but of the stories they had woven together. The validation swept over Jane like a tide, affirming her belief that a balance between tradition and innovation was not merely possible but essential. In that moment, Jane understood the profound transformation within herself. She had confronted her fears, navigated the shifting landscape of collaboration, and ultimately emerged with confidence, proving that emotional depth could harmonize perfectly with analytical precision. No longer was she simply a baker. She was a leader in her own right, ready to embrace both heritage and the cutting edge. As the event concluded, Jane's heart swelled with pride. She glanced over at Ben, whose face lit up with a sense of accomplishment. It was clear that they had not only succeeded in their venture but had also strengthened their bond as partners in both baking and life. Looking out at the gathering crowd, Jane felt recognized, no longer just defined by the past or overshadowed by Ben's innovations. She stood firm in her contributions, an established figure in the business, a testament to the power of personal growth. As applause lingered in the air, Jane reached for Ben's hand. The journey was just beginning, but she realized that they had paved the way for something truly beautiful, a confluence of their strengths and stories that would carry their bakery into the future. Join this sisterhood of stories. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It seriously matters. Comment your thoughts and reactions about this conclusion. Your voice is important. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need inspiration in their lives. This is the moment to show your support.